imagine this ancient story, but it feels really personal,
Hmm.
about the surprising stuff that really binds us. And, well, the freedom you find when you let go.
Yeah, and it's often not the big, obvious things.
Exactly. It's the little habits, the things we barely notice. That's what we're exploring today. What's that one rotten creeper in your life? Maybe something you think is no big deal, but it's actually holding you tight.
Mm. Those little attachments, they can be incredibly powerful. It's this paradox, really, that the Buddha explains so clearly.
Absolutely. So today we're doing a deep dive into a part of this ancient text, the Laḍukikopamasuttaṃ.
Right. Also called the Quail Simile Sutta.
And our mission really is to unpack the wisdom in this conversation. It's between the Buddha and Venerable Udāyī. We want to figure out what makes a bond strong or weak.
And how understanding that might, offer some insights into our own lives, our own feeling of freedom or lack of it.
Yeah, expect some pretty vivid images. We've got quails, elephants.
Contrasting fortunes, yeah. It takes us from these really practical, everyday struggles all the way to some, well, deeply profound states of liberation.
Okay, let's dive in. The scene starts peacefully enough, a forest grove in a pana.
Quiet place. The Buddha and Venerable Udāyī, they've just finished their morning alms round, getting ready to rest for the day.
And it's here that Udāyī starts thinking, reflecting.
Yeah, he's thinking about how much suffering the Buddha has helped them remove. And on the flip side, how many, wholesome states have come about because of the teachings.
And right away, he hits on a really practical example, something super relatable, food. The discipline around eating.
Right. He remembers how monks used to eat evening, morning, and at other times during the day, inappropriate times, the text calls them.
Why do you think that was even a thing, eating at inappropriate times? Seems minor, maybe.
Well, I think it shows the Buddha's detailed approach. It wasn't just what you ate, but about mindfulness, detachment, even in really basic daily habits.
Makes sense.
So the Buddha told him, okay, stop eating at those inappropriate times during the day.
And Udāyī, he admits he wasn't happy about it. He felt, otherwise, the text says, even sadness.
Yeah, because, people, faithful householders, were offering them good food during the day. Delicious stuff.
I can imagine the monks thinking, really, we have to give this up.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Udāyī says, despite that resistance, they did it.
Why?
Out of love for the Buddha, respect, shame, fear of blame, all those things. So they gave it up. They just ate evening and morning then.
Okay, so they adapted, but that wasn't the end of it, was it?
Nope. Later on, the Buddha said, okay, now you need to abandon eating at night too.
And Udāyī felt that same resistance again.
Yeah, otherwise, and sadness again. Because apparently that evening meal, well, that was the better one, the more delicious of the two they had left.
And Udāyī gives some pretty specific reasons why going out for alms at night was, well, just a bad idea beyond missing a tasty meal.
He does. He mentions this little story, a man telling his wife, save the soup for tonight, because, preparations were fewer at night, things were simpler, maybe more substantial for the evening meal.
So the food might have been better, but the process...
The process was dangerous. Monks begging in the darkness and gloom, he says. Think about it. Falling into cesspools, stumbling on thorns,
Yikes.
even bumping into sleeping cows, or running into local boys, maybe getting harassed. And then there was the risk of women inviting them for unrighteous purposes. Bad for safety, bad for their reputation.
Wow. But it's Udāyī's own story that really hits hard.
Oh, yeah. He talks about being out begging one night. This woman is washing dishes in a doorway, sees him in the dark. She screams, just terrified, thought he was a goblin, a demon.
Oh my gosh.
And when he says, no, I'm a bhikkhu, a monk, she basically tells him off.
What did she say?
Something like, it would be better for a monk to get stabbed in the gut with a spear
Yeah.
than to be wandering around at night begging for food just for his belly's sake.
Wow. That's blunt.
Incredibly blunt. So, remembering all this, the difficulties, the dangers, that woman's reaction, Udāyī realizes, yeah, the Buddha really did remove a lot of suffering for them.
It wasn't just arbitrary rules. It was practical, protective. It really grounds this ancient teaching, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what's great is how this personal struggle Udāyī had over something like mealtimes, it perfectly sets up the Buddha's bigger point.
Which is
how attachments work. How even small things can bind you tight, or how big things, surprisingly, might not bind you at all if you have the right mindset.
Right. So Udāyī's personal story becomes the springboard. And the Buddha then gives these amazing similes to illustrate the point universally, starting with the quail simile.
Yeah, the weak bond that's actually strong.
How does that go?
The Buddha talks about these, well, worthless men, he calls them. They get told to give up something small, insignificant.
Like maybe that extra mealtime.
Could be. And they think, oh, the teacher's being overly scrupulous, too strict. They refuse to give it up.
And the consequence.
They lose faith. And that little thing they wouldn't let go of, it becomes for them a strong, firm, stable, unrotting, thick bond.
Okay, so where does the quail fit in?
The simile is this little quail, Laḍukikopamasuttaṃ. It's tied up by just a rotten creeper. Seems flimsy, right? Weak.
Yeah, sounds like it should just snap.
But the quail, it either dies there or stays bound. It can't break free. And Udāyī agrees, yes, for that quail, that rotten creeper is a strong bond.
So the aha moment is it's not about the thing itself.
Exactly. It's not the creeper's strength. It's the quail's inability to break free. It's your attachment, your mental grip, that seemingly worthless old habit, that grudge. That's the rotten creeper. The thing itself is weak, but your clinging makes the bond powerful.
That's really counterintuitive, a weak thing being a strong bond. So what's the flip side, the elephant simile?
Right, the strong bond that's actually weak.
Okay, how does this one work?
So, in contrast, you have these sons of noble families. They're told to give up something minor, insignificant.
And they do it.
They do. They abandon it. And crucially, they don't lose faith. They let it go. And having let it go, they live unconcerned, with minds like deer, free.
So for them, that same minor thing
becomes a weak, rotten, worthless bond, easy to break.
And the elephant.
The simile is this huge, powerful king's elephant, battle-hardened, strong tusks. It's tied up with strong ropes, thick, heavy ropes.
Okay, sounds like it should be stuck.
But the elephant, it just like shifts its body a bit, snaps the ropes, tears them apart, and walks off wherever it wants.
Ah.
So Udāyī confirms, yeah, for that elephant, those strong ropes are not a strong bond.
So the insight here is it's internal strength.
It's all about your internal capacity, your understanding your power relative to the bond. The elephant's inherent strength makes the strong ropes weak for him. It's not about the ropes. It's about the elephant.
Okay, so it's internal. But, well, it sounds simple, but why can some people just let go of big things while others get stuck on tiny stuff? The Buddha gives more examples, right? Like the poor man.
Yeah, the poor man's strong bond. He paints this picture of someone really destitute, unlucky.
What does he have?
Almost nothing. A rundown little house falling apart, a broken pot, maybe a tiny bit of grain, and an unattractive wife, the text says. Just meager possessions.
And this man sees a monk.
Yeah, sees a monk looking peaceful, clean hands and feet, eating well, meditating in the shade. And the poor man thinks,
I want that.
Exactly. Wow, the ascetic life looks happy, healthy. I wish I could renounce my life and do that. But he can't. He cannot bring himself to abandon those few dilapidated things he owns to become a monk.
Even though they're practically worthless.
Even then. And Udāyī confirms, yes, for him, those worthless things are a strong, firm, stable, unrotting, thick bond.
Wow. So the less you have, sometimes the tighter you hold on. Okay, what about the contrast? The rich man.
The rich man's weak bond. So picture a wealthy householder, or his son. Got everything.
Like what?
Heaps of gold, tons of grain, fields, land, multiple wives, loads of servants. Immense wealth.
Okay, and he also sees the monk.
Yes, sees the same peaceful monk, has the same thought. I wish I could renounce.
And the difference is?
The crucial difference. This wealthy person can do it. He can just walk away from all that immense wealth, leave it all behind, and go become a monk.
So for him, all that gold and land
is not a strong bond. Udāyī confirms it's actually a weak, rotten, worthless bond for him.
It's like maybe you can't throw out that one old ripped t-shirt with sentimental value, but upgrading your expensive phone every year is easy.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
It nails the point. The strength of the bond isn't about the value or amount of the stuff. It's the mind's grip. It's the attachment, not the object.
This really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? So, okay, we understand attachment better now. How does this play out on the path to real freedom? The Buddha talks about different types of people, right?
He does. 4 types, based on their relationship with these attachments, or upadi, as the text calls them.
Okay, type 1.
Type 1 is someone who's striving to abandon attachment. But thoughts about the attachments keep popping up, constantly assailing them.
And what do?
They just endure the thoughts. They don't actively abandon them or dispel them. And this person, the Buddha says, is fettered, still bound.
Okay, type 2.
Type 2 is also striving, also getting hit with these thoughts, But this person does fight back. They actively abandon the thoughts, dispel them, push them away.
That's better. Are they free?
Surprisingly, no. Even this person is still called fettered. Maybe the struggle itself shows the bond is still strong, or perhaps their faculties aren't developed enough yet.
Interesting. Okay, type 3.
Type 3 is also striving. They only get hit with these thoughts occasionally, maybe due to a lapse in mindfulness, a momentary slip.
And when it happens?
They deal with it fast. They abandon the thought quickly. The simile is like a few drops of water hitting a hot iron pan, gone instantly.
Surely this person is unfettered.
Still fettered. Even that quick recovery isn't quite full freedom yet.
Wow. So being fettered covers a lot of ground, even people who are doing pretty well. What makes the 4th type different, the unfettered one?
The 4th type, the truly unfettered one, is someone who is fundamentally understood. Attachment is the root of suffering. It's not just an idea. They get it deep down.
So they're not fighting thoughts anymore.
They are simply without attachment. They are released because attachment itself has been destroyed, completely uprooted. It's the full letting go, the end of the struggle.
That clarifies things. So we've seen how things, possessions, can be bonds, but the Buddha digs even deeper, right? He suggests even chasing happiness can be a trap if we don't understand it. He contrasts different kinds of pleasure.
He does. First, there's what he calls sensual pleasure, kamasukha.
What's that?
Basically, the happiness you get through your 5 senses. Nice sights, sounds, taste, smells, touch. That kind of everyday enjoyment.
Sounds normal. Good, even.
Well, the Buddha describes it pretty harshly. Filthy happiness, ordinary happiness, ignoble happiness.
Yeah.
He explicitly says it's not something to cultivate or chase after. In fact, he says it's to be feared.
Feared. Why?
Because it's unreliable, fleeting, and ultimately leads to more craving and suffering. It keeps you bound to the sensory world.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
The alternative is renunciation, pleasure, nekamasukha. This is a very different kind of happiness. It's the joy and peace found in deep meditation states, the jhānas.
Ah, the jhānas. Can you give us a feel for those?
Sure. Think of them as levels of absorption. The first jhana, for example, you find like amazing relief and joy just by withdrawing from usual sensory input and busy thoughts. It's born of seclusion. There's rapture, pleasure.
And it gets deeper?
Yeah. Second jhana, the mental chatter, fades further. There's deep inner confidence, unification of mind, still rapture and pleasure, but now born from concentration itself.
Okay.
Third jhana, even the excitement of rapture phase, you settle into deep equanimity, calm awareness, still experiencing a subtle pleasure with the body, but very peaceful.
And the 4th?
Fourth jhana is beyond pleasure and pain altogether. Previous joys and sorrows disappear. It's pure, refined equanimity and mindfulness, totally stable.
So this kind of happiness...
The happiness of renunciation, seclusion, calm, awakening, this is the kind the Buddha says should be cultivated, developed, practiced. It's not to be feared. It leads towards liberation, not away from it.
This really shows a sophisticated understanding of happiness. But wait, you said the Buddha goes even further, even beyond this blissful renunciation pleasure.
He does. It gets even more subtle. He points out that even the first 3 jhanas, beautiful as they are, still have some motion in them.
Motion? What does that mean?
Things are still happening. There's applied thought in the first, rapture in the second, that subtle body pleasure in the third. They aren't perfectly still.
So the goal isn't just bliss, it's something else.
It seems the ultimate freedom requires letting go of everything, even refined mental states. Only the 4th jhana, with its pure equanimity, is called immovable in Anyajita. It's stable, undisturbed.
But he doesn't stop there either. He keeps going.
Exactly. Even the jhanas, these profound states, need to be seen through and eventually transcended, not clung to. It's about understanding their nature and not making them the final goal.
So even that deep peace of the 4th jhana isn't the end?
Not the absolute end of the path he lays out here. He teaches that the 4th jhana is transcended by realizing the sphere of infinite space. You let go of form and perceive boundless space.
Wow, okay.
And then you transcend that by realizing the sphere of infinite consciousness. Space dissolves into pure consciousness.
Get going.
That's transcended by the sphere of nothingness. Even consciousness falls away. Then that is transcended by the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. A state so subtle it's hard to describe.
Why keep pushing beyond these incredible states? What's the point?
It's about the complete, utter cessation of all clinging, all identification, even with the most refined experiences or states of being. The final step he mentions here is the cessation of perception and feeling.
Where everything just stops.
All mental processing, all feeling ceases. That's presented as the ultimate release from the cycle of suffering. And after laying all this out, the Buddha asks Udāyī,
Yeah.
do you see any fetter, subtle or gross, any bond at all, that I haven't taught the way to abandon?
And Udāyī's answer.
No, Venerable Sir. He sees the path is complete, from ditching an evening meal all the way to transcending consciousness itself.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, the Laḍukikopamasuttaṃ, it really takes us on a journey.
It absolutely does. From Udāyī wrestling with giving up dinner,
To that little quail stuck by a rotten creeper.
to the rich man walking away from a fortune.
It all points to the same thing. True freedom, true bondage. It isn't about the stuff outside us. It's about our internal grip.
Right, that grip can make tiny things feel like huge chains, or it can make huge things feel insignificant, easy to release. Even profound states of mind can become fetters if we cling.
The strength of the bond, ultimately, it's in our own mind, that minor habit, that little opinion you defend. Could that be your rotten creeper?
It's a challenging thought. That thing you dismiss as unimportant might be exactly what's holding you back.
So maybe the question for you, listening, is this. Reflect on your own life. What's your rotten creeper, that seemingly small thing you're clinging to? Or what's your dilapidated pot that feels like you can't possibly let it go?
And conversely, what immense wealth, maybe not money, maybe a belief, an identity, a comfort zone, might actually be a weak bond that you could release surprisingly easily if you just saw it differently.
Yeah. What would it take? What would it mean for you to cultivate that elephant's freedom in your own life? Something to think about.